Good morning. Not quite so dark and dreary this morning, so I thought, while the house was quiet, that you might like to see what I've been thrifting lately. And just playing with my camera angle, the phone seems to think it's at the wrong angle. Never mind, let's get going. So grab a cup of something hot and don't forget to keep me company in the comments. I'm drinking boiling water as it's first thing in the morning. Since we last spoke, I have been to a few flower festivals and I've posted some photographs in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World. And if you've been to flower festivals, I'd love to see your photos too. And of course, if you've been crafting or flower arranging, and even if you want some flower arranging advice. So last weekend, the trusty trio, Julie, Jan and Lisa, went down to Smarden for their Christmas tree festival. We got there at 10:30 in the morning to discover it didn't open till 11 o'clock. So we retraced our steps and went to Headcorn, which is a lovely little village just between Maidstone and Ashford. Worth a drive. And their beautiful church was closed for renovations, but I think their Christmas tree theme or festival is they line their paths in the graveyard with Christmas trees, and each tree is decorated in memorial of someone, so you could read the labels, and it really was very moving. Again, I have taken some pictures, and you'll see those on my Instagram or on my Facebook page as well. So we went to an antiques fair in Headcorn, and then we went to the charity shops. So this is what I bought from the antiques market, the actually modern and new little homemade houses, and I'm guessing these are offcuts of wood. I never asked the lady where they come from. What I noticed first of all though is that they had little roof tiles. So these look like they're strips of fabric that have been glued on, and I quite like the curved nature of that. So I've got an eclectic collection of little houses, from a Dutch blue house to a cardboard and paper house I made, to little wooden houses my dad made when I was young. And I thought these two pieces would look rather lovely grouped together. It's on a peg rail, so I'm guessing the peg rail is probably the width. It's set on a board. It's probably the width of those. And I have got some little toy trees as well to build out my winter theme. And then after we'd been to admire the trees and to a circuit around the antiques fair, we noticed that the church next door was open. This was, I don't know if it was a Baptist church, but the door was open and there was a lady there selling items. And lo and behold, there were 3 pieces of, you've guessed it, genuine Cornish ware. And it was a lovely day to pick this up, because Cornish ware is made not because it's made in Cornwall, but because the blue and white reminded the designer or one of the staff at the time of the sea and the waves in Cornwall. And it was a beautiful day because to buy this, because it was one of those really crisp winter days where it was cold enough to be wrapped up. But from memory, it was sunshine and blue skies, or perhaps I've just misremembered that. So you can see here that it says TG Green Pottery in the clover. I don't know why it says clover leaf. Cornish ware, dishwasher, freezer and oven safe, made in England. So it's nowhere near a new piece, and I'm holding it that way around because it's got a chip on it. So Lisa spotted these first, and she bought, I think there were 2 jugs and a bowl. So she bought the other jug because it was in pristine condition. And then Jan and I were looking over her shoulder, and we were admiring the little bowl, which was quite crazed, and this jug, which has got the chip on it. And we were umming and ahhing, and the lady said, well, why don't you have them for £2 for the pair? So we paid £1 each. So Lisa got in first and paid top dollar for hers, which I imagine was either £2 or £3. And Jan and I were lucky enough to get the runts of the litter because there was slight damage on them. And sometimes you find when people have got stalls, they just want to get rid of things. And so they're happy for it to go to someone who's excited to see it and to find a new home. This is crazed as well. So I'm probably going to put this in my front room where I'm decorating. I've got a plate rail. I've got panelling I've put in on the walls, did it myself. And above the panelling, I've got a little shelf and I've got lots of things along there, keeping them vaguely to a blue and red theme and having them not too wide so they actually sit properly on the shelf. So I'm rather pleased with that. Then we went across the road to the charity shop, and I would say the charity shop in Headcorn, I cannot remember the name of it, is right on the corner opposite the church. There's also 2 other charity shops, and I'm sure I've done a video about charity shops in Headcorn before. So if you're interested in thrifting and all things charity shopping and car booting, you ought to have a look at my playlist. I think it's called Flower Arranging from the charity shop or something like that. I'll try and remember to put a link to it in the description underneath the video. So there's this charity shop, and then further down into the high street there is Hospices in the Weald, and I think it's Scope as well. And if you go down into there's like a little shopping parade, you'll see that there's a nice cafe. I think it's called the Bailiff Cafe or Bo Peeps or something, but we quite often stop there for lunch. So I bought a pudding bowl. It reminded me of the Christmas pudding shape. And the reason I did actually buy this, Jan picked this up first, is number one, it's Mason Cash, which is the well-known make. There you can see, it says Mason Cash, made in England. But the reason I bought it was because I'd been to a cookery class in town and we were asked to bring a bowl with us. It was a free community class, and the teacher came round and she said, "Oh, your bowl's sort of been spent or needs to be replaced," because where I had been using my electric beaters, it taken off the top of the glaze, so it sort of had these marks, and it looked like I'd gone round inside with a pencil. And so I duly donated that to the charity shop, thinking someone might want to plant bulbs in it or something. And then my husband told me he was a bit disappointed I got rid of it because it was his favourite bowl for making mashed potato in the microwave. And I had since replaced it by a glass Pyrex bowl that nested into another one I had. So I thought I'd done a good thing, and he was a little bit upset. So I thought I would buy him a Mason Cash £3 Christmas pudding bowl, and then he can use that to microwave the little pellets of mashed potato that he has from time to time. The other things I bought were gold beads. Now, do you think these are really 1980s? They cost me £1 from that charity shop on the corner. And the reason I bought them is my daughter, we went out shopping together, and these are trendy. Now, I can remember these from the 80s. I had a red set, and I think my mum had a silver or gold set. And eventually, well, probably only 3 or 4 years ago, I got rid of them because I thought they were so dated. But it's quite on trend now to decorate the Christmas tree as if it's got strands of pearls on it. And if you can find these beads, is to double them up and triple them up. So they do actually look like necklaces garlanded round. So I bought those, and I said to my daughter, does she want them? And apparently she has enough for her bedroom. So you never know, that may well make it onto my Christmas tree. Now, the first thing I actually saw when I went into the charity shop was these little bottle brush trees. There were actually 3, there's definitely 2 more because I gave one to Jan and Lisa. Can't remember if I took my own out of here. I think there might have been 5 in here. There were definitely 4, but they were 50p each. And I thought they just looked absolutely perfect. And there's a little crafting idea I've got. So if you want to watch on to the end of the video, I'll show you a really quick and simple craft to do if you've got a tiny bottle brush tree like that. So rather pleased with that. And then we went back to... Now, I'm going to show you this first, I can't remember. Well, you don't want to see those. Again, I'll show you how to make those little stars afterwards at the end of the video. I can't remember where I got this bowl from. Was it? I think it might have been the Hospices in the Wheel Shop. I am attracted to a lump of glass. I'm assuming that it used to be an ashtray. And I have got several ashtrays that I use for flower arranging. You can normally put a little metal pin holder in the middle there and then cover it with water. Look quite nice with the daffodils in it. And I did think, as it's Christmas time, it'd be quite nice with a nightlight in it. And then I was looking at the back and I could see that it had been inscribed. Actually, I'm not sure whether I got this from the Antiques Fair. I can't remember, but it's definitely from Headcorn. I don't know whether you can see that. I couldn't see whether it was written that way up or whether it was to be read that way up. So I did what I always do, and I took a photograph and I put it through Google Lens. And do you recognise, can you see what it says? It says Orifors, O-R-R-E-F-O-R-S, is it? So it's a piece of Swedish glass, and it is in fact an ashtray. And when you look it up, you know, I paid, what did I pay for this? Was it £1, £2, £1.50, £2.50 possibly? Don't think I would have gone that much. You put it through Google Lens and then you can go to various websites and find out about it. And I've seen one that's for sale in America for $250. Obviously, I don't know if that's sold, and seeing it selling for a price is no indication for what price it was sold for. And then here at home, I saw it in Etsy for about £40. So that's quite a good buy. And I have heard the name Orifors before, because I'm sure that Lady Mary Beth, do you follow her YouTube channel? She's a font of all interesting information, particularly in relation to tabletop. She I think quite often talks about Orifors as a glass maker. And therefore, next time she does, I shall be listening up more carefully to see what she says about the manufacturer. So very exciting. Now, I will say that every time we go to Smarden, which isn't very often, I think they alternate their Christmas tree festival and their flower festival. So I believe if I had a Christmas tree festival this year, next year it will be a flower festival, and then 2027 will be their Christmas tree festival. They must take so much work. But when we go to Smarden, it's a beautiful tiny village. There's a pub, there's an art gallery, and there's one little vintage shop which Lisa particularly likes to go in. And the lady in there is absolutely charming. She spends a lot of time using her fingers while she's there. She's made origami things or things out of fabric. She had a basket full of neck scarves, which were £1 each. And then underneath, she had some fabric. And again, if only I can remember the prices, I either paid £1 each or 50p each, and it cost me £1. But I came across this fabric, and of course, I couldn't resist. So when I say that I am redecorating my front room in red, white, and blue, this is what I mean. So it doesn't look like I live underneath a Union Jack. It's just those vague tones. And actually, this piece of fabric is very similar to the Colfax and Fowler fabric I found in Ramsgate in the fabric shop there. And lo and behold, I didn't know it's Colfax and Fowler until I got it home and put it through Google Lens and discovered that I paid £7.99 for my piece. And I think it retails at £130 a metre. So this is from a sample book. So it's adapted from a hand-painted Indian cotton, early 18th century, for furniture and for furnishings. Fire protected, 100% cotton, hand wash only. I must remember that, because this is going to become a cushion cover. So there's only enough fabric here for a front cushion cover, but underneath I found this fabric and I thought I could have a reversible cushion. And what I've noticed is a bit like flower arranging, when you have a flower and then you look more carefully at it and you see some different colourways and you think, oh, I could put in a contrasting flower. But that blue there is almost the shade of the blue on the pattern there. And then this sort of sandy gold colour, I think that's actually a better match. You can see it there. So I know that it's going to go together because the fabrics are talking to each other. So rather pleased with those. But I will say, with the run up to Christmas, I am feeling, you've got quite a lot to do, and I don't think my sewing machine is going to come out. Oh, I forgot to show you this as well. I bought this from the antiques market. It's a piece of costume jewellery, £5, and I have already worn this 3 times because we've had various Christmas dinners and parties to go to. I've had it pinned to a dark blue long sleeve shirt, blouse, and I've had it pinned to my mauve cashmere jumper that I got from Vinted. So it's very wearable. Now, can you see the problem here? I wore this out the other night and I took my cardi off and I didn't have anywhere to put it. So I put it at the back of the chair and then I promptly sat on this, and thank goodness I spotted that I'd sat on it and damaged it, because I was actually able to pick up the missing bit. The only problem I've got now is I don't think I've got sufficiently good eyesight. The fixing there is T-shaped. Can you see that? And the fix and each of the little links, can you see? So perhaps I'm going to have to do it through my camera, use that as a magnifying glass. So in theory, this will go back together again. Actually, I think if I was to wear it, I don't think anyone would notice that it was broken, but I think that's going to need a pair of pliers and a magnifying glass. Then, out in town, I came across these books. All their Christmas books were laid out, and I thought, I can't resist a Christmas book. So I bought these 2, £1. This Santa Claus Murder. Ironically, Jan offered me that from her stash, but I was able to say I already had it. I do like a little bit of crime and thriller, and I think they'll probably be quite easy reads. And then The Mistletoe Murder by P.D. James. So I didn't buy the ones, you can tell a book by its cover sometimes, or the ones that look like, too brightly coloured and were about girls going shopping and Christmas time. I didn't, the chick lit kind of books. I quite often find those fun, but they're not my natural go-to. And then the last of my thrift haul to show you, so by now several weeks have passed, and I would say, even though this is the last thing, do watch on to the end of the video because I've got some crafting things to show you. And as you know, if you're a regular viewer, you will know that Jan and Lisa and myself swap Christmas gifts. Christmas and birthdays, £2 limit. Not quite sure everyone's stuck to the £2 limit this year, but I thought you might like to see what I've been given. And it's all been pre-loved. It may not have fitted the budget, but it's all been pre-loved. This book here has come from the second-hand bookshop at Iton Moat. Do you know Iton Moat? It's quite near Sevenoaks in the southeast of England. It's a National Trust property. So I went there to meet my sisters for a gift exchange. I got in free with my National Trust card, and I was able to make use also of my Gardener's World 2-for-1 entrance. So that was rather handy. So Kirsty, Christmas is not Christmas without Kirsty Allsop's Christmas series. And at one time, these series ran, I think it was sort of 4 or 5 weeks in the run up to Christmas. And then was it lockdown, sort of doing one-off specials? I don't quite know. So I was really excited to see that there was going to be a new show. And I watched that one. And then it said, and the show will continue at 4 p.m. on a Thursday on Channel 4. And I've not been able to find it on our TV. And then mentioned it to other people I know that like watching her. And they said, I think the rest of them are repeats. And not even repeats of the series in order, possibly random repeats. So I'm not quite excited. I don't think I'll be struggling anymore to look at them, because once I've watched the programme, I don't really want to look again. What I do love, though, if you buy a pre-loved book, this one's got a bookmark here. So someone obviously was interested in learning how to make the bunting. And as I flick through the pages, I can remember making some of these projects at the time. She's made rosettes out of the cuffs of jumpers, by rolling them up. What else can I remember? I am thinking about making a Yule log, but I don't know whether it's one pressure too far. These are lovely to make, the oranges studded with cloves. So there's lots of sort of eats at the back, and then there's sewing crafts at the front. I really like these papers. And I was looking through the book thinking, oh, I wonder if I could rip those out and do something with them. You know, what's on the other side? But sometimes it's printed text on the other side. So a rather lovely book to look at as well. A bit on there about wrapping. You see what I mean about that page? So I'm going to have lots of fun. Even if I don't make any crafts, I'm going to put my ticket from Item Note into the book and use it as a bookmark. And then it's a nice remembrance of things I've been doing. And also, I'll say, look at the colour, look at the colour. I've decided that I'm not keeping my books in my flower arranging cupboard out of sight and out of mind. I've started just stacking them up. I got an old dining chair. Do you remember I showed it to you when I went, it was a balloon back Victorian Edwardian chair I picked up for £5 from the Faversham Safari in August. And I got lots of books stacked on there. And I may well just have a flick through and put Kirsty on the top, because I would be able to look at my stack of books. My eye would be taken to my footstool, which is covered in my very similar Colfax and Fowler fabric, and then all your eye bounces around like it would if you're doing a flower arrangement. So how about a really, really simple craft? And just while I'm here, check out those tulips. Do you remember I arranged them last week? You can see how the yellow ones have grown higher. And you can see that on the whole, I'm making sure the camera is sufficiently far away. These are going straight in the compost heap once I finish chatting. And but for the donation I made, £1, the flowers lasted a week, and from a distance they look fine. I particularly like the parrot tulips because they've got a crinkly texture to the petal, and then as the tulips dry out they become crinkly anyway, and it's all rather lovely to look at. So I'm going to move my book out of the way, and you'll see here that I have got 2 crafts to show you. One of them is these Christmas stars. This is such an easy craft to make. And, you know, why would you want some satsumas cut into stars? Well, I just quite like them, you know, using my little ashtray as a catch-all. Must remember not to throw my bit of diamond away. And it's quite satisfying to make. It's, you know, we talk about crafting activities and, you know, the value of mindfulness. So what I'm trying to do is when I have my satsuma, this one is a little bit old, it might be dried out, trying to peel it in one go. And if not one go, I don't know whether this is going to happen, is to peel it in as larger pieces as possible. Now, if you are not very good at peeling fruit, what you can do, and I'm sure I made a video about this, or perhaps even I've just put a photograph on my Instagram feed from last year, that you can rip up all the bits of peel, you know, say they were about that big, and thread them onto a reasonably substantial length of wire. And eventually, the more you add, you'll create an orange scented little mini wreath. And again, I had that hanging on my peg rail for the whole of the festive season. So it's always a challenge, isn't it? Can you peel your satsuma in one? So if we can, I'll show you what to do. And if we can't, you can use the tip to make your own little orange wreath, which will dry. Now, I thought my wreath did dry. I was absolutely convinced that I packed it away with my Christmas decorations, but we've just decorated our tree last week, and I couldn't find the peel, so I must have, it either went mouldy or I got fed up with it and I threw it away. So my camera quite clearly is wanting to slide down. So let's see what we do. So I know it's rusty. I don't use this for cooking. I've over the years, as it's become rusty, I've just sort of, again, toss it in the catch-all and sort of make things look effortlessly festive. You know, you may well find I do that and leave it like that right until the new year, but doesn't it look rather cute? Or it looks like a little ice island. So you take your cutter and you have to remember which way. I know that's the top because it's got the fold over of the metal. This is, in theory, is the sharp edge. It's not particularly sharp. And here, like any pastry thing you do, you're trying to work out whether it's just going to be one star you can make or whether you can get multiples. So here goes. So I am going to try and do it off to the side. And actually, it would make more sense to put a piece of wood over the top and wallop this with a hammer. So what I'm doing is really trying to cut right down. So I'm doing it on a chopping board, and then you end up with your little star there and cut it out. So that came out quite easily. Sometimes I've had to get a knife and cut round the star while it's in the peel. But again, it's flat at the moment, but as it dries, the colour will dull slightly and it may well curl. But it's just nice to have something a little bit festive, and it just reminds me of Christmas with my mum and dad and my sisters growing up, when peeling in one was a real skill. So perhaps I could even get a double use out of this. Cut stars out of the big bits and use the scraps to make a wreath. So I'll put that away for another time. Now, how about, again, another simple craft? Well, it's a simple craft if you've got the ingredients. So a little while ago, when I got together with Jan and Lisa, we normally, if we see things, we buy them for each other. So Lisa found 3 little thimbles. She gave one to each of us. Now, why was she looking for thimbles? It was because when we went to Penshurst, have you seen the video when I shared with you what I bought at Penshurst? We had seen these used as buckets for Christmas trees. So that's why I've been looking for a Christmas tree, so I can put my little Christmas tree in the bucket. The only problem being that it's got this little stand on here, which actually I do quite like. And when I put them together, I'm thinking, perhaps I should just glue gun it together and it can be a bucket with a fancy trim. But my idea was that I would very carefully, can I do this? I'm spinning that off. So I've got a little disc now for more crafting. I thought there, I could put that into there. Of course, it's going to fall off because it hasn't got any security. So I have got some air dry clay, and I've always put it in a Ziploc bag because it will dry out between uses otherwise. I can't remember. Oh, I made the house. Do you remember the house I showed you when we went to the caravan? The caravan holiday in October is always the start of our Christmas crafting. I do think perhaps so. We have so many ideas, we might even have to start earlier. So I've just taken a piece. You could do this if you didn't have clay. You could do this with blue tack or something like that, or a bit of polyfiller. But there, instead of having the tree just resting on the base, or on the top of the thimble, I've actually got it so the little trunk shows. Possibly I've got too much clay in there. I think I would have liked it. No, let's try again. I think I would have liked it slightly lower. So I'm going to scoop it out with a teaspoon. It's a bit like if you've ever done a topiary tree in a flower arranging class. A topiary tree looks better if you bring the medium that you're going to impale your trunk in just below the rim of your container, because that means you can cover up the top of the medium with something else. So if you were flower arranging, you might be putting moss around the top or something like that. So there we go. I have put my medium in my container, but I've got a few millimetres, set down a few millimetres. That means that when I put my trunk in, I have actually got some reindeer moss I could put there. But I think anyway, that looks better because when you're looking at it from the side, you can't see that it's got the air drying clay inside. And luckily for me, this thimble has a flat bottom, so it's going to stand up. Ta-da! Now, have you got time for one other? Well, it's not so much crafting, it's more about the flower arranging. Okay, I'm just going to move that over there. Oh, don't fall. I've bought some of those bulbs that have been prepared for indoor planting. I'll show them to you. I put them away and I haven't had time to do anything with them. Actually, it reminds me, now I've changed the camera angle. Would you like to see what I got from Jan and Lisa? Let's clear the decks a little bit. And it was always so exciting. We had mince pies and we had a real giggle together. Lots of innocent fun, sharing nice times with friends. So let's move those out of the way. And then I can remind myself about what I was bought. I'm just going to put my little tree next to my candle there. Oh, looking at home already. So clink, 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 clink. And what I love as well is finding out where the girls got their gifts from. So first of all, I've got a 100% cotton Irish tea towel with a lovely quote about friendship. And Jan and I have this thing about tea towels being made in Ireland. Very nice quality. She got that from the antiques market in Headcorn, and I think she bought 2 of them, so she was able to negotiate a little price. Dink, dink, dink. Lisa bought me this little mug. I think it's one of those mugs where, is it an espresso cup? It would have had a spoon in there originally, but it fits with my white and red themed Christmas. I am contemplating tying a piece of velvet ribbon through the handle where the spoon would have been, and then suspending on the peg rail I've got. Actually, now I show that to you, I'm really warming to that idea. And then Jan bought Lisa and myself a mug celebrating the Queen's Silver Jubilee. And we were both absolutely over the moon with this. I can't believe, neither of us could believe, that this mug, so the Jubilee was in 77. So I can't work out how far ago that is. 77, 87, 97, 107, 17. So it was 38 years ago. And that mug to me looks like it could have been made yesterday in real sort of classic design. And we christened them. We're having a cup of Christmas tea in it. And I'm really, really pleased with this. I particularly like that I'm going to use it. And I particularly like it's got the fineness to the china. So really, really pleased with that. And then, whilst I'm having my cup of tea, Lisa bought me this plate, which says bonjour, blue and white, no markings on the back. So it'll be a nice cup of tea and a slice of toast with marmalade for me this morning. And then as a little jokey joke, I was so pleased that this wasn't a swan. There's an ongoing joke about meat and swans. But Jan found this. It's tiny, a little trinket dish in jasperware. So I don't particularly like jasperware, but it's in every single charity shop we go to. And I quite like that. I might put that on the kitchen windowsill. And when I do the washing up, I might put my rings in it. And there is the Made in England back stamp. So I did feel really, really pleased with those. And let's move on and I'll show you what I need to do next. Now, as I said before, I have bought lots of bulbs to go out in the garden, and it's either been too rainy or too frosty, so the ground's hard. I think today may well be the day, finally, when my daffodil and tulip bulbs go into the garden. But I'd also bought myself some of the prepared hyscinths, which I had tucked away. To be honest, thought perhaps they didn't look very healthy. But I can see I've just left them I've got a hostess trolley in my kitchen where I put things on, and a bit like a plant stand really. And I noticed that after a couple of days they're starting to get some green growth. So the energy is inside the bulb. And I thought, as a halfway house, because bulbs, they don't necessarily need soil, they need some water. I've got this copper bowl which I bought from the charity shop a couple of years ago. It was £10, and I just thought it was absolutely magnificent, and I went back a couple of times and I thought, I've got to take that home, because if it disappears, I'm going to be really disappointed. And then I made this little wreath form years ago, sufficiently long ago, it's got cobwebs on it, So it's sort of dried. It's sort of like a bit like a French millefleur arrangement where all the decorative details. So it's moss on a 20cm wreath frame. And like just coincidentally, now I'm moving it, it's all breaking apart. It fit exactly inside the little copper bowl. And then at the bottom of the copper bowl, I think this is one of the first presents that I got from the £2 present deal with Jan and Lisa. And this is from Lisa. And it just looked really pretty. So it's a flower frog. You can imagine it would have perhaps sort of had a more of a ginger jar base to it. The base has long since gone. But I thought, as a halfway house, perhaps I could put that in there and then just tumble my hyacinths in. If I was to put water in the bottom, do you think that is going to work? Or is it just going to look a little bit sparse? Perhaps I'll have to find a smaller container, or perhaps in my mind's eye I thought I'd tumble them in like this, but I think I would need, I've got 2, 4, 6, 7. It's a peculiar number to have bought. 7. If I was buying them, I probably would have needed 16 or 18. That just looks a bit bizarre like that. Perhaps I should put water in the bottom so the bulbs have got somewhere to reach down to. And then to put these in, actually texturally, the bulbs have got something in common with the all these decorative details. I think there's hops in there, there's gyp. I think there's some exotic South African foliages that have dried out. Look, I can get 5 there and 6 like that. Perhaps that's the way to go. And then from this dryness will become those lush little green tips. I think I'm going to have to work on that one a little bit more. And I've got one more thing to show you. Last week I said that I had got the tulips and I donated, what was it, a couple of pounds to the local charity. Well, I treated myself. We've been having a discussion in my Facebook group, Flower Start World, about amaryllis and how much they were and when they came into season and how long they would last. And I was wandering through town yesterday and it was quite late. It was sort of coming up to 3 o'clock, so normally when things are starting to pack up. And I saw the flower lady was there and she had sold out of practically absolutely everything. But she had some amaryllis, £3. No, they weren't. If only they had been £3. 3 stems for £10, and the stems are longer than my arm. So I thought this would be rather nice. These are going to be long-lasting flowers. The only little problem with amaryllis is when they open, they've got long stems and the flower heads are quite large and it can become a little bit unbalanced. And also the stem ends is a hollow stem flower. Just going to take that paper away from that flame. Oh, I think I might have accidentally scratched. So you can see that was, it's going to have 3 buds on it. And these really, really long stems, which are hollow. And when you cut the stems, they do often start to fray a little bit. So if you're looking at care advice for your amaryllis, sometimes people say to put some of the pot tape that you would have used to hold your flower frame in place in a circle in the bottom. But I quite like it when it starts to fray upwards and it curls a little bit. So I'm going to arrange these really simply, and I wonder whether you'll actually see it in the camera. I might come up a tiny bit higher. You can see the vase I'm going to be using. It's a hurricane glass vase there. And I've decided, excellent opportunity to use one of my huge heavy flower frogs, my pin holders. I'm not quite sure you can see that or not. And put it at the bottom. Now it's not a thing of beauty, so what I am thinking is that I really need something. Obviously I need some water in here, but I need something perhaps to disguise the flower frog. So it may well be, if I can find some glass chippings or marbles or something like that, that will just disguise a little bit. I'm not going to put them in now because I don't want my stems to have to battle for space. I will very carefully put them in afterwards around the edge. So what I'm going to do here is very carefully recut the stem ends. They've been out of water, so they've dried out a little bit. So it's got this incredible crunching. Can you hear that? It's like crunching into celery. And then I've cut straight across, and then it's just a matter of very carefully, I'm taking my hand right down to the base of the stem to impale that on the flower frog. And look, can you see that it's standing up? You can't, because it's such a tall flower. You still can't. Oh! It dislodged. You can almost see there. I think I'm probably trying to be a bit too ambitious with the height on it. So practice. Do it first. See how it gets on. Now, I was wondering as well, another thing, I'm going to let that go where it wants to go. That, because I thought it might happen like that, I've actually got some kebab sticks here, and I was thinking of doing that. Is it a Chinese or Japanese thing? Actually, these kebab sticks are quite nice. I've used them before for something for flower arranging, and I've tied on, that's paper covered wire, but actually I think texturally that looks quite interesting. So normally I would get rid of, old bits of mechanic, but I quite like that. So I have seen people, again, do this online, where you cut a stick. My container is slightly shaped, so I'm not sure I'm going to get the size right to begin with. But you cut a stick and then you wiggle it down. I think I'm going to have to cut a tiny bit more off there. Wiggle it down, and then it holds in place as an extra spot. And I've cut it too short. That's annoying. So less talk, more action, Julie. Oh, I've cut that one too short as well. Not going right. Oh, bother. But the idea is that you get a really, really tight fit, probably with a slight bow in your stick. I just need to add on literally 2 millimeters. But you could make a grid of those, and then, can I do it? Oh, no, it's not holding. Anyway, sometimes you just can't do things you see on the internet. What I am going to do, I don't want all 3 flowers to be the same height. So if that's the tallest flower, I want to have this one a little bit shorter. So I'm letting that fall. Oh, that lovely sound again. And then perhaps they'll support each other in standing. They have got a slight lean. You can see what I mean about them being top heavy. Anyway, talk amongst yourselves while I figure this problem out. This is going to be a really good one. Oh, delicious. So I'm cutting them at different heights in order to create a little bit of rhythm, and because I don't want the heads all to be in the same place. I want them to be a huge. Now that shorter one has gone in and stayed. So perhaps that's what I need to do, is I need to cut them all slightly shorter instead of by trying to be too long. No, look, spoke too soon, it's wobbled. You know what will happen though, don't you? As soon as I switch off the camera, they're going to spend the whole of Christmas leant over to one side. So if I knew exactly where it was going, I could even tie those together at the top. Let's see, can I get them to interlace? Look! They're all standing. Can you see that? No, you can't. I have managed to get them to all stand up. What an awful camera angle that is. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I shall say goodbye and catch up with you next time.